This is the Discovery 2 Grand Tour mission to Jewel, originally done under a really old beta of Kerbal Space Program. Since Imgur Albums broke, I decided to create this in a YouTube slideshow format. So this will be a mothership type mission sent over to Jewel to hit all 4. Turns out there were 5 moons over there. Here is the original schematic slash design slash doodle for the Discovery 2. And now it'll be time to build it. And as you can see here, Jeb has horrible penmanship. These were the original ground tests in the fab with the minimum ship configuration. Ship being laid down will be decoupled into 2 parts for the launch. The command section with the truss and drive section. Lander probes and the mobile Cathane drill refinery, or MKDR, will be launched separately and assembled in low Kerbin orbit. Mistakes were made. VabTechs neglected to place a docking node or decoupler between the cupola and cockpit and the launch vehicle, but we decided we'll keep the truss. So this completely useless command section was undocked from the truss and deorbited. This will not be the only issue with docking ports. Here is the replacement command module. So one more time, with feeling and a proper docking port, we can decouple. This is mounted onto the newly developed 30-ton payload medium lifter using a mix of turbojets and Rapier engines. This is the Nerva drive section on a 6-part asparagus heavy lifter. Now that we've got the truss and command section assembled in orbit, it's time to set up the caboose, or is it the locomotive? It's equipped with a 2-stacked Balut inflatable heat shield for aerobraking at Jewel, and once again back at Kerbin after a successful mission. The inflation should shield the Nerva rocket cluster along with the probes, the lander, which stick out past the 2.5 meters. The lifter is a 3 asparagus stage mainsail based lifter off using an old standby, capable of lifting 70 tons. Here's the science lander on the launch pad. SRBs are to help get into LKO, Rapier-based engines for the Jewel's moon, including lathe. It should have enough delta V to get off any of the Julian moons. These are the second version of the probes. In the original version, the decision was made to forego any RCS systems to save weight. This turned out to be a problem when we were trying to dock them on orbit, as they were kind of impossible to control. These new probes were designed with a removable RCS system and docking ports. This is half of the mobile Cathane drill rig, or MKDR. It is essentially a Cathane tank and also what will be an empty monoprop and liquid fuel and oxidizer reservoir. The 2 MKDR halves will be designed to dock, giving a more stable landing platform with a total of 4 landing struts. This unmanned rig will be controlled directly from the Discovery 2 using the CAL probe command system, avoiding the signal delay for Kerbin, which is about 10 to 15 minutes since we're using Remote Tech 2. It sports a high resolution radar altitude center from ScanSat, while its twin will carry a Cathane detector to monitor Cathane deposits. Here we are refueling the Discovery 2 just after docking the Cathane twin rig, which will be split and mated on either side of the main truss for balance. The big orange thing is the refueling rig. Jeb EVAs to secure the Cathane rig via Kerbal Attachment System struts as he flies by the state-of-the-art AE35 communication antenna. It's very dependable. The AE35 antenna has a range of 350 million kilometers to allow transmissions back to Kerbin. And the MKDR has been split and is being docked to the opposite side of the truss. The Discovery 2 is fully assembled and awaiting the final crew and fuel. Note, the Balut heat shield is not exposed in the rear as it should be. There was a problem with the docking port. For some reason, the port on the heavy lifter detached the wrong side. The fairing stayed in place, but simulations F5 plus F9 demonstrate the heat shield inflates fine when triggered. This is a view from the hybrid shuttle Prius ferrying the Discovery crew on board. I'd like to point out that this really hideous spaceplane was created before there were large spaceplane parts available, so this was the only way I could get up such a large crew into orbit. After dropping off the Discovery 2 crew, the Prius shuttle will rendezvous the Firefly space station to await further return of the Duna Explorer, my other mission. And here we got the Discovery 2 on orbit being refueled by the Space Bee tugging a fuel tanker. Here are all the main parts. We've got our command module, uh, cockpit, which are the crew quarters, science lab, and probe command module. We've got the science lander, which is a one-man lander, Rapier powered for oxygen and non-atmospheric flight. 4 ion thrust probes for all 4 Julian moons. They contain ScanSat radar and Cathane detection hardware. The twin Cathane rig mates together for flight, landing, drilling, and processing. And we've got a quad Nerva powered drive section, including 2 sets of Balut inflatable heat shields for Joule and Kerbal return aerobraking. 184,955 kilogram perb weight, 64 tons of propellant, not including 16 tons of lander propellant, which can be tapped if necessary and replenished later. 3,332 meters per second of delta V with 1,114 meters per second in reserve. KSP launch window planner predicts ejection delta V of 1963 meters per second and insertion delta V of 2961 meters per second, leaving us short at insertion. Hence, aerobraking is planned. The mods I used were Ferrum Aerospace Research, Kerbal ISP Difficulty Scaler, Kerbal Joint Reinforcement Deadly Reentry Continued, Remote Tech 2, Kerbal Engineer Redux, Docking Port Alignment Indicator, Kerbal Alarm Clock Procedural Fairings, Real Shoot, ScanSat Kerbal Attachment System, and I just added TAC Fuel Balancer and Visual Enhancements Clouds City Lights.